Welcome to the Cardboard Herald podcast. My name is Eric, where we have this week joining us the designers of Tricky Kids. We have Danielle Reynolds, who is there, and Steve Ungaro, who is there. I think, if I'm looking at my Discord correctly, I think that's the orientation that we have here. And also their names are going to pop up.
Yeah, I was going to say like flipped, but sure.
Welcome in. We generally start the podcast off with what have you played this week?
Cool. Do you want me to go? Or? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Go.
Sweet. Yeah, so while I've been recovering from a concussion, I was like, let's play board games. Gets you off the screens. So I played A Place for All My Books, the new Smirk and Dagger game. I actually got the deluxe version because I play tested it back like a year ago, so I knew I'd actually want to keep it. So I bought the nice version. Super fun, super cozy. Introduced two new friends to the idea of a worker placement game, and they loved it. And like action selection, or I shouldn't say worker placement, it's more action selection.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was super fun. And we played Bantus, which is an Exploding Kittens game. It's probably my favorite Exploding Kittens game. Kind of like a push your luck card game. There's really only two options, but it's like very approachable and fun to teach to people. And then Dice and Slice, which is actually a game that Steve and I, like our mutual friend Maxine, made, and it's with Think Fun Games. Nice. So it's kind of like you roll some dice and you slice up some pizza and you try to score points by like getting toppings and things inside the slices. It's very fun. So that was also their first roll and write game. So I was introducing all the new mechanics to them. It was super fun.
Great, fun. And Steven?
Lately, haven't been doing a ton of like play outside of like work. Actually, I've been able to actually get people at work to play games during lunch. Most of them like
fun.
don't play a whole lot of games, but and so it's been a lot of like really lighter stuff. So Clover has gone over quite well. Just got Wine Cellar from 25th Century Games, gave that a try. That was cool. The Gang. Right, the co-op poker game has been like a huge hit at work. Flip 7. I think like Flip 7 and the Gang like kind of gets everybody's like gambling juices sort of like it scratches that itch, right? But those have been big hits lately.
Great. Yeah, I just played. I was playing some Space Base, some Skull King, and also some Century Spice Road. That's what I just got off of a different Discord channel, playing with some friends of mine, and those are fun. That was my first time playing Space Base, which I know that that's like a classic, but it's like one that I just missed it. It passed by, and that was my first time getting a play of it. But it's fun. John DeClaire is a great designer.
Yeah, I just had him on my podcast talking about Space Base. So yeah, look out for that at Game Design Unboxed.
Yeah, great. Absolutely, I'll give that a check out. Yeah, he was on here, but he was chatting with Jack, so I was not able to chat with him. But that was when John DeClaire randomly went up to Juneau, Alaska for the board game convention that's there, like the really small local one.
Interesting.
Wow.
And Jack chatted with him, but that was very, very fortuitous for our channel. But yeah, so that's what I've been playing recently. And then I also did me and Scott, who is Board Gaming Bud, who we had on last podcast to do like a Gen Con roundup. We met up and played just so many of the games we got from Gen Con. Just so many of the games. We both ended up with a ton of 2-player games from Gen Con. So it was like we spent like 3 hours just different 2-player game every like 20-30 minutes. Just getting them all played. So it was Tag Team, which was really rad, and then Compile, the main 1 and 2. And then Ivy Studio, we played Pillars of Fate, which is one of the games that they released at Gen Con, which has just a really interesting the lanes can be worth either positive or negative points depending on what symbol is most prevalent in that lane. But because some of the cards you play go face down, you can like fake out your opponent and make the lane negative when they think it's going to go positive. It's really interesting. It has some cool mechanics in there. But yeah, that's what I have played this week. And
yeah, I played a ton of prototypes, and one of them was actually co-design with that Scott that you're talking about. I convinced him to start designing games with me.
I think I am super stoked to start playing some of his designs because I just think that it's fun. I design games recreationally, just as like, I don't know, it's a fun hobby.
That's how it starts.
That is how it starts. But I think that I feel a little. I mean, I think this feeling won't ever go away. But I think there's always like a small sense of imposter syndrome where it's like, oh, I'm just doing my silly little thing, and it's. Like, it's not to the same level as anybody else, but I think it would be fun for me to just play a game with somebody who's also kind of just starting out their board game design journey. To just basically also just get some reassurance of, oh no, everybody starts like this. This is just the way that it is. You have to learn. You have to learn some things, and then you will eventually get to being able to be.
I also think of it like it's like your graduating class, like you do it together. Like I think of Steve and I as in the same class, or like you and Scott could be in the new class.
Yeah. I need to get him. Well, and we're gonna have a lot of time to play with him in the near future, due to some personal reasons with him that are maybe fun. We'll see. But yeah, I wanted to have you both on the podcast because I got to play Tricky Kids at Gen Con. I had heard about it from Scott leading up to Gen Con and was really excited to give it a go. And also just, I think this is the first time that we have had co-designers on this podcast. We usually have just like one or the other. And I think that to me, this is a really interesting, different process in designing games where there is like, we have developers who come in. So we're going to be talking with Cameron Art next week, who developed Harvest. But developing is different than designing, and I think that co-design, like starting from the ground up, is really fun. So Tricky Kids was out there at Gen Con. You had worked on a couple games / prototypes before then. What was the, I guess, like process like of this is your first time, the two of you specifically working together? Not like with Tricky Kids, but just what was your first project that you worked together on, even if it's not published or out there yet, and what made you go, oh, this person that I want to continue working with?
Yeah, I mean, Danielle and I met at like at a local meetup group in the Chicago area, and so we have a co-designed Curbside, and that sort of started the way I think of it, Danielle, is that we were kind of both working on pick up and deliver games at the same time, and just sort of started sharing ideas and realized like this sort of merger of ideas would kind of fit really well. That's like
I always think
how I remember it.
Okay, yeah, I was like, Curbside was my second game I ever designed, and I kept not getting it right. And then I was like watching how you design, and I reached out going like, hey, you want to figure out a way to make this better? And then I made a better second version.
Well, I think, I was really taken with like your theme and like the artwork and stuff, and I was like, oh, well, how about I use some of these ideas from this like boring like game of like trucks delivering pallets and try find something in between.
That's back when I used to do like actual really nice art for my prototypes. I've gotten lazier.
Well, or maybe more efficient. You can say you got more efficient.
That's the right wording. Efficient. Yeah, I am very efficient when my brain is working correctly.
But American Airlines is trying to put a stop to it. You're getting too efficient.
Bags on my head. Seriously, I tell you.
So you both met, and I guess you figured out that you were both kind of in similar genres in terms of what games you are currently designing.
Yeah, I would also say like he and I just like feedback. Like, I would see his games, but I would see more in interacting and looking and playing other people's prototypes. The kind of feedback he would give made me want to work with him. It was like the reason I would reach out with ideas on occasion. It's just like I thought he had a really good sense of like more the development brain, I think, a lot of times, and just like how to see a system that's broken and fix it in an elegant way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I
And
don't
I
know
think
about on his side, so.
I can see how that would be like a really valuable person to go, oh yes, this is a person who will help make the game that I'm designing with them much better. What I guess you both decided to work together, and then from there, I know that the project is out on Tabletopia, or Curbside is at least out on Tabletopia and is in the process of hopefully getting signed. But where, I guess, from the starting point of we are working together, this thing that we are going to be doing, what were the conversations like following that just like initial first step into co-designing a game?
Yeah, it got a little weird because we met like kind of right before pandemic kicked in, right? And then that happened and Danielle moved out of the Chicago area. But I mean, ultimately we just ended up having video chats, playtesting with people on Tabletop Simulator, and just kind of checking in with each other on what all that looked like. Danielle was fortunate to seem to be able to, she's way more savvy with the graphic design and the computer side of stuff. And you were able to like establish that kind of network of people to actually play the game, right? Pretty quickly and stuff. So
Yeah, we also ran into that issue that a lot of designers do, where it's like we had this cool game, it had like an interesting mechanic to it, but it also had like it's pick up deliver, it's a taxi, and a bunch of people are like, well, there's this game that just came out about something exactly like that, or like this is an overdone theme, or like we don't want pick up and deliver, like that's so out right now. So we had a very long period of just like people be like, oh yeah, I'm interested, and then they'd be like, yeah, but there's also the things I just listed, and now we're gonna shelve this game for a while. And then we ended up bringing it back and adding like an additional co-designer to try to twist it to a specific publisher that we had in mind. And currently we're trying to wait on hopefully seeing if that gets signed. So yeah, I know, right? So it's one of those things where some projects, it's like years in the making. Like I have a game that might have been my 5th game I ever designed that is finally getting signed. I came up with in like 2019. So like you never know. Sometimes you just like shelve it and you wait for a period of time where it's like that is now like an acceptable mechanic or theme or combination for people. So
where it is now in vogue.
Yeah, I guess.
Sure. So you had some experience working together before Tricky Kids, and you know that I like it a lot. I think it's really great. It's a very smart twist on the trick-taking genre where you for the people listening in the podcast who don't know anything about the game, I'll give a very brief overview, which is you get dealt 9 cards that are all just the colors of the cards. It's yellow, pink, and blue, representing video games, soccer balls, and it's axolotls. Is that it's just plushies?
These generally cute things.
And you determine what value those cards are. So you dump 2 of them, they go away. You determine what the values are. The ranks, I think, is probably the more technical card term for it. But it can be whatever number you would like it to be, with the stipulation that the total value of the cards must be 21 or less technically, but probably 21 is what you want to aim for.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
No negatives, no fractions. We're not trying to do that.
There's no upside to doing that. So.
There's no upside to doing it. But because you're writing out your cards, I think you get a lot of... There's a lot more choice, and I think there's no bad hands inherently, which in some trick-taking games you can just go, oh, this hand is bad. So, I mean, I just played Skull King, and that has a way of mitigating it where you can still get points if your hand is just bad. But I think this one gives you a lot more flexibility in how you approach each round. With your prior experience working together, What was the design process like for this game? Kind of like from idea to, you pitched it to Pandasaurus, who has put it out there in the world now.
So basically what happened is I was on vacation in Malaysia, walking around looking at monkeys and stuff, and I thought of this idea of, I know, I travel a lot, and that's where I get a lot of my inspiration, but I was thinking about games, and like I had just had a conversation with Eric Lang, because he also just happens to have a winter home in Malaysia, because why not, when you're a designer, do that? And he asked what kind of designer I wanted to be, and like I was thinking about that question, but also thinking about like how sometimes designing you want to like fix things that you don't like out of a game. And in this case, I hate trick-taking games versus Steven, who fucking loves them. And so we are very different people here. And the reason I don't like them is exactly what you described, which is the idea of having a bad hand. And that doesn't feel good. And I didn't like grow up with trick-taking games. So I like never clicked in 100% how the rules and mechanics and the nuances, and I don't card count. So like it was never fun for me to play a trick-taking game. I have started to see a few of them I don't hate. And I have started to add some mechanics like trick-taking in other designs out of, I think, spite. But this one in particular, I love the idea of writing your own values and stuff. So when I was on my plane coming back, I had like Instagram Messenger, and I was like messaging with Steven going like, because he's played so many, like, what do you think of this idea? And I needed someone to bounce ideas off of, because the man's played, what, like over 100 at this point, I feel like?
Yeah, it is right. Yeah, over 100 at this point. I would say I haven't kept count, but that's not true. I'm a track all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it was fascinating. I mean, the idea of making up the numbers was an immediately fun hook, but at the same time, right, it's just a giant canvas. I mean, you may as well say just design a trick-taking game and make it about literally anything that you want, because it's a complete, just a giant sandbox to play in. So it was very much about like trying to figure out quickly what to do. And I think with the instinct was to try to make something that was fairly beginner friendly, played quickly, and just had pretty clear incentives. I think early on, we decided on like, it was toyed with, but we decided on like no Trump suits being involved, at least in like the very base version of the game.
Not want that.
Yeah, we were trying to, even though we were making a trick-taking game, something that would be able to minimize like lingo and any sort of like gatekeeping that can kind of come along with very like specific genres or mechanisms of game, right? And there's so many words that get thrown around, and like just by taking out, one thing, it makes that really easy. Yeah, and it just sort of clicked into place with this one.
Oh my god, for real though. Like, I feel like going back and forth, I was like, what do you think about this? And you're like, range of 100. I was like, no, what about 21? That's easier because math.
Yeah, I was like
50. 100. Yeah, no, I was like, bring it down. And I was like, what do you think about tokens? And it's split up between 3 suits, and it has like a different amount. And he's like, done. Like, I will build you a spreadsheet and send it to you. So he just like decides that the number 7 split up in every form is how we're going to do it, which equaled 21 tokens. And that include having values of like 0 as the lowest and 5 as the highest. So like that initial spreadsheet he sent me that I basically landed and whipped up into a prototype stuck. It stayed the entire design process. So he just like, we went with that. Initially, though, the hand was 7 cards. We ended up later through development deciding on 9, and you discard 2 to kind of just help a little bit that. Especially at the highest player count, there was an ability to kind of card count for those few people that can. And so, like, there were changes, but that initial, like, hey, we're going to do 7, we're going to have 21 points, that stayed the entire time. And, like, his tokens, but I basically came back from
the tokens I came up with are unchanged in the version of the game.
Amazing.
So and there was some fun kind of like elegance to the sort of like to some of the numbers, right? It's just like the 21, and it's like 3 and 7, and you're writing 21 on the cards. You play 21 tricks. You mean stuff like that, like kind of stumble into it, and it just like feels really good. Yeah.
So that was kind of cool, but basically, yeah, like I spent 2 days and I prototyped the game. I went to 4 back-to-back conventions, and in the first one, and this is something that's never happened with any of my games before, I had my prototype taken from me and played throughout the convention, and that was SaltCon, and they just like kept playing it, and they were teaching the next person that entered, and it was getting played with like 2 to 6 players, basically nonstop for like 2.5 days. And so I've never seen that before. Like at that point, I had like built the rules because like one thing that I had tested was the idea of like, hey, if 2 people have the same numbers, they knock each other out. I thought it was hilarious, and the amount of laughter that came from playtesters with that like mechanic, which I had asked Steven if that's a mechanic that's in trick taking or not, and so he's like, well, these are different things we could try, and I was like, but I like this one.
Yeah, I love that mechanic so much. It is saved my butt. Oh, so many times. And I think that it is, I mean, in one of the things is just, there's so many trick-taking games to draw from that have their own, like, rules that there's a lot of flexibility within the trick-taking genre. As a person, my wife loves trick-taking games. That is, like, her and her family are all, like, we go there, we play a ton of bridge. I still am not really clear on the scoring. I know generally whether or not I'm doing good or poorly, and I know that's...
So funny.
I have a pretty good grasp of what I should be doing each turn, but then there's like a whole language of, oh no, when you're doing this is what you're communicating to your partner that I just... but there's... Yeah. I bring that up just to say there are so many trick-taking games that have a lot of mechanics that you could draw from, and I don't think that I've seen that in a game before, and I think that it works really well, especially with kind of how light and beginner friendly this game is.
Yeah, I had no idea. I just felt like it was really fun and funny to watch. But yeah, I was just like texting Steven, and I was like, guess about this? Or like, my prototype's been gone. And I was like, how do you feel about me on the airplane adding this game that literally has only been play tested probably about 50 times at that point though, but like had been created like 3 days earlier to my pitch deck. And he's like, sure, like what the fuck?
Absolutely. So, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, enthusiasm got me a lot of places on this one, but so I like went into Gamma. I showed it a ton at Gamma, and a bunch of publishers were like super interested, and then I went to Unpub was the next one that I went to, and at Unpub I didn't realize, but I was actually playtesting with one of the owners of Pandasaurus and stuff. So it was Nathan and then Alex Cutler, who at the time was a developer there. They just happened to like come by, play with me because Alex and I are friends, and he wanted to see this game that I was like showing off, and it just happened to be Tricky Kids. And Alex later approaches me and he's like, hey, so not sure if you knew, but this guy that was playing with us, that's Nathan. He owns Pandasaurus, and he wants to offer you a contract. And I was like,
yes.
And I tell him, and I don't know how he responded. I feel like it was excitement. It's been a bit.
Yeah.
And that's when I said, hang on, let me print this out and play it at least once before we sign it with anyone. You know, Danielle happened to be able to get like, you know, I was like, the files were like still coming out of my printer, and she had tried it like 50 times. So, I mean, yeah, it was amazing. She was able to get it to the table so quickly.
It was ridiculous. I've never, like I said, this has never happened. Like I've had games, like Caution Signs came very close to this, where it was just like very quick process, and I think it was about from the inspiration and it coming out of my brain with like Scott. I think it was around a similar timeline of like 2.5 weeks or something.
Yeah.
But it was, it wasn't like in the same way, because like this like game was like taken from me and like shown to a ton of people, and I had companies who I didn't even pitch to, but reached out to me because they heard about it from people. Like Elizabeth Hargrave had played it at Unpub and like told AEG about it, and like up until then they didn't care about who I was. Yeah. And so it was just like this interesting thing where I was like, oh, we have like all these people that are interested in this really cool, what I thought was a unique game. And like it was awesome too, because as both of us were playtesting it and stuff, like we had this offer from Pandasaurus. I had told Nathan like, hey, we also had these other people looking at it. We gave a timeline of like, we need an answer by this time, but ultimately like we both liked Pandasaurus for it. They were giving us everything we wanted contract-wise. Their products are amazing. Their games have been, like, hitting with people, like, and they gave the creative freedom to kind of, like, help with, like, art direction and just, like, I'm a little bit of a control freak. So, like, have more to do with that. And, but also it was nice because, like, through play testing with all those, like, or I should say pitching with all those publishers, we realized that if you play the game multiple times with the same group, you almost form, like, a meta a little bit. Where the tricky kid rules came in. So, like, Steven and I worked to come up with those, and Alex Cutler helped with us. And then also my boss, Rob from Wise Wizard Games, I was pitching it to them too to see if, like, internally we wanted to sign it. And he quickly, like, found one thing that could be problematic, which Steven came up with a great thematic solution for, which is that idea of, like, you turn this marker and play almost like spin the bottle, but spin the marker to figure out who's going first. So, like, you can't set your numbers to who's going to start the game. Yeah. Which I think just, like, it fixed that one problem in, like, such a great way.
Yeah. What was it like working with Pandasaurus? So the game is, you agreed with the contract with Pandasaurus. What was it like from the moment it was signed to its eventual publication?
Yeah, I mean, I think what was really great about Pandasaurus is, right, we had already been having those conversations with them, and I think what was great with Nathan is that he really seemed to just kind of get it with the game. He sort of, like, understood what we liked about it and sort of, like, the game's identity, I guess, is the best thing. And so he and Alex, like, during development, I mean, everybody sort of understood what it was. It was meant to be pretty light, kind of silly, but also, you know, especially with the same group over and over. But, you know, you get a lot of interesting decisions to make. You know, and that's what when we started developing the tricky rules and stuff. I mean, they started out very simple, but we started introducing, like, all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, there were some wacky ideas on the cutting room floor, I think. And, you know, I don't know if any of those will, like, you know, make it back in some form. Would be really fun, but the game had come along so far. It had been play tested so many times. I think more than a lot of games maybe before they get into a publisher's hand. So I think the handoff was really easy there. So it was a lot of discussions about fine tuning and getting us involved with, like, the art direction and keeping the initial, like, theme and title was really great. It was a very positive experience.
It was great, yeah, because, like, Nathan at first was a little concerned that, and this has come up in interviews and stuff, people are like, oh, tricky kids, it's a kid's game, clearly, but, like, or that's, like, the assumption that some people make because of the title, when really we felt like that name just so perfectly explained the mechanics and made it more approachable. It created a story when you're teaching it. And that's what, like, Molly, who is one of the other owners, was just like, no, we're keeping this. Also, all this buzz has already been created around this name from Danielle playtesting it around at all these conventions, and then Steven showing it off at his, like, local groups, and it's just like, why would you remove this marketing that's already been put there? But then just working with the artist to make sure that the art felt like, cute, approachable, but not like a kid's game.
Yeah, totally. And it seems like this was, like, a very easy process from start to finish. Was there a hurdle? Was there a biggest hurdle you had to conquer? Was it just like, oh, cool, this game's done, designed, out the door?
I think, well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned, like, Rob's comments and stuff like that, and so, you know, there was occasional things, but it was, like, on a long enough timeline with, like, more playtesting. I think sometimes what maybe felt like a rough edge from a single person's feedback didn't really seem to establish a pattern. Somebody might have been like, oh, I just put really high numbers and a bunch of zeros, and then someone would go like, oh, I countered that by doing this, right? Like, that didn't work when I played it. And so it was great that Danielle was able to get so much feedback and, like, really establish patterns, which is that there's just, like, a lot of interesting ways to play with it. So
and it's like when people play it, each hand changes so drastically because people change it to try to fit other people, and then it just morphs and changes in such a fun way. Like, it's almost like I don't know, I think of it as almost a social game, like, almost has tendencies of a party game or a deduction game, because you're really trying to play the people too.
Yeah.
Which is fun. But like, as far as hiccups go on the like having the game sign and having it come out and stuff, the only thing is the tariffs kind of mess with some stuff.
Yeah.
And how Pandasaurus kind of addressed that was like, okay, so they didn't know if the game would be at Gen Con for like a pre-release. So the game isn't technically out to retail yet. It's not going to be coming out till like fall time, so like late October, early November.
Yeah.
They ended up shipping in, so just like flying some copies into Gen Con, but they weren't sure if they would arrive, so they couldn't do like a ton of pre-marketing. So like a lot of the pre-marketing was just like the buzz that was built off the initial prototype, and then just like a few videos that either they made or that we did. And it was really nice because I love Raina. She's their marketer, and so she like popped us on a call like this, asked us some questions, and like spliced together some fun little video nuggets of just like what our process looked like and the interesting parts of like what makes this game so different and unique. And like I have like 3 Instagrams or something. Like I have too many forms of social media that I can use to market the game. But yeah, so that was like a hiccup. And also there was an accident where they ended up sending too many games to Gen Con, but then they almost sold out of all of those games. So like I guess it didn't turn out terrible.
Yeah, I think it seems like a win.
But it's very exciting. We just found out today that it looks like they're already going to be reprinting. So we've sold out of our first print, and it's not even out yet. So like, holy shit,
amazing!
As a designer, like, woo, get it. Yeah, we're super pumped and already working on an expansion. Steven just like freaking already had it all.
With some of those wacky out there tricky kid rules.
Yeah, a bunch of and a bunch of new ones too. So.
What you both have games that you have designed that are, you know, just yourself. What is the, when you are approaching a game, what is the difference between a game that you might say, oh, I should bring on a co-designer? Like it sounds like for Tricky Kids, this was really good because Danielle needed somebody who's maybe a bit more versed in trick-taking games, and Steven, that sounds like it's you. A few of the games that we'll touch on later that you're coming out with are trick-taking games. But I guess how do you approach a game design differently when you are planning on having a co-designer versus one that you think, oh, I think I can do this on my own? At least to the point where you then get a development team.
I'll just share a quick thing because I know Danielle's done it a little bit more than I have. But I mean, for me, what's becomes fascinating is just like having an active sounding board of another designer and getting the feedback that sometimes it would take a play test or getting it to the table to have someone just, when you just have another mind in there being like, what about this? And they're like, no, that won't work. Just someone even letting you know something doesn't work, or it would be more fun if X or whatever it might be, is great. You're like, oh yeah, I didn't, or just one little thing that you might have missed because you get tunnel vision or whatever it might be. And, and they just let you know, like, here, I just saved you an entire playtest and useless feedback that you might have gotten.
Yeah.
So. What about you, Danielle?
Yeah, I mean, how I use co-designing is normally I have an idea and I reach out to a person with the idea, or I have a game that is stuck in some way and I think a person can help me fix it. So I use it more as a way to get projects unstuck or to kind of expedite the process, because I like working on both. Like I think I'm half and half right now, like half are solo, half are co-designs. And most of my co-designs are like, hey, I have this cool idea. Like, what do you think about this? And then like I hop on a call or I do like messaging or whatever. And kind of what Steven described, it's just like 2 brains are better than 1. I, at this point, have like flexed my muscles enough where I can visualize most games pretty quickly in the range that I'm good at designing. And I can get a lot of it like kind of play tested in my head, and then I put it out and I can prototype quickly because I have a graphic design degree. So like quickly whip it up, build it, put it either in a digital form or print it out and cut it and stuff. So it's like I can get it play tested very quickly because I have a lot of friends that are like local, and most of them are not gamers, and so they're kind of perfect for play testing because I like to make approachable games, and very quickly I'll learn if I like made a game too difficult or hard, or if it's accessible by doing that. Or if I want my gamers, I got them like digital or at conventions and stuff, so I have that like nice pooling of people. But it is really nice in the beginning if I have a co-designer, because then it's like you have this built-in playtester. So it's like you two can just keep going back and forth, playtest it until it's like at a point where you want to show it to the world. Versus me, where I might subject people to games that may not be that fun, or I might be changing the rules a little bit during the playtest. But at this point, like the muscle there is pretty strong. So like most of my games don't like, they're not painful to playtest in its first iteration.
Yeah.
They might just not be like something you want to buy anytime soon. Yeah. But yeah, so I think I approach co-designing a little differently. I've only had one game where it's signed and I wasn't the one that went like, it was either a job put me with someone as a co-designer, or I reached out. I only have one co-design where I met a person, saw a game they were working on, and basically went, would you be interested in me working with you on this? And that's actually a college kid. So like I was judging his class, and I just happened to see his game and his talent, and like I'm super pumped for that game to come out maybe next year, possibly early the following. So you never know with the world. Who knows what new tariff will be added or what will happen.
Yes. So you, Danielle, you've had a few games that are out already. I know that Caution Signs is probably, the most widely known one, and Herstory as well is up there in terms of like games that are, I think, pretty recognizable. But additionally, you have done a fair amount of either design work or development work that are for licensed games. So you have Watch Mojo Superfan Top 10 Party Game, and then you also have the National Geographic Secret Clue games. When you are designing a game that is like licensed, this is a established brand that you are designing a game for. Do you approach that with a game already in mind that you adapt to fit the licensing, or is this something where it's like from the ground up you're working with the team to design this game?
Yeah, all of the cases has been ground up. Normally I meet with the brand or the person who's like representing the IP, and I kind of talk through like what the audience of their IP is. That's kind of like the first thing. So like a prototype I currently have, a podcast / YouTube channel reached out to me, kind of like the Watch Mojo one, but in this case it was called Something Scary. And so they came to me asking if I would be interested in designing a game for them. And most of their audience is kind of like 20s to 30s, primarily like women that would be into like true crime, fantasy, like murder vibes and horror stories. Just like,
fun.
Dark. So they're like, so this is the demographic, but the types of things these people are into and the game weight in which they would play is more like the level of a Exploding Kittens game. So it's like, okay, so I have to make a game that is got a little jump scare. It's very approachable, simple rules, cards, plays for larger player counts, maybe kind of comes with like not a party game, like a party game vibe, but not party game. And also like for that age group, I was like, okay, so like a game I played in college is like King's Cup, where it's like you have like all the cards. So I changed that instead to being like, that's your new deck you're drafting from. Instead, like you build this like circle, like a spirit circle, and you're like pulling from it and stuff, and bad or good things happen, but mostly bad things because like something's scary. But like the idea is I talk to the IP, I figure out their audience, I figure out the price point that they're looking to make the game at, what components I might be able to play with, and then I try to apply like their game and like build it into the system. And so that's just like a quick example of one that I've more recently done, where like the Watch Mojo one was like, hey, that they do these like top 10 lists. So it's just like, it's a ranking game. You're going to have options. Everyone's going to put them out, and you're hoping your card that you put is going to end up in that like top 3 versus like the bottom 10. You're going to get positive or negative points from that. So it's just like figuring out ways to bring mechanics to how something works. Or like the eBay game I made for Gen Con. they wanted a game about explaining how eBay worked. And so it was kind of like you could sell things into the market. So like you go into grandma's basement, you find like a stuffed animal and an action figure. It's like, great, you got that for free, but you can turn that in to get some money and boost the tracks up and do set collection. Because eventually after 3 rounds, in that 4th round, you do an auction and you're trying to collect these cards. And like the more you have of them, the more points you're going to get. But you always have that option to buy it now, which is why it's called eBay Buy It Now, which is just, you could spend the $10 and just buy the card versus going into the auction later and spending $30 on that same fucking card. Because it's like teaching people how eBay works. You can do the auction, or you could just literally click the button and buy it. But people always end up doing the auction, which is so funny to me. But it's just like trying to create ways to explain how these brands work with these mechanics versus like doing something for National Geographic. They wanted an approachable, family-friendly game, and I was like, okay, well, I want to make a My First Deduction game. Like, how do I get non-gamers into deduction using animals? And so, like, that's where the Secret Clue game came in versus the Nat Geo game that's like a scavenger hunt. It's like, okay, for the scavenger hunt, instead we're going to look at 3 traits, and those 3 traits are linked to an animal. So it's like, we're looking for fluffy things, red things, and I don't know, sharp things, or probably not sharp.
Yeah.
I think we got rid of that one through play testing because of knife situations. But like you have a time limit to try to collect either objects that combine those things or separate objects. And so it's just like, how do you make things for the different audiences? How do you make games approachable? Like, so much of what I do is making approachable games, because that's like, I want my family to be able to get into my kinds of games I enjoy, which are like Night Steven. Now, those are my kind of games, so I love the little crunchy crunch. But yeah, so that's kind of how I approach it.
Great. And then just to pivot here a bit to you, Steven, you have some games coming out in Baron John Games' latest Kickstarter. You have 3 Tricky Pigs and Hen House. It seems like trick taking is kind of your vibe.
Kind of.
Sure.
So I guess I was wondering if you could, one, just kind of give a quick overview to the listeners and viewers of like what are those games, and then why do you think, I mean, I would assume it kind of comes from just playing a lot of them, but why do you think you're drawn to trick taking games as like, you know, your third game that you're going to be publishing?
Yeah.
Problem.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the for a quick description of those 2 games, I mean, 3 Tricky Pigs is a co-design with Andrew Stiles. It is a 3 Little Pigs themed trick taker. The basic hook of that one is you're pretty much bidding on how many tricks that you can take. The suits are straw, stick, brick, and wolves. And if a wolf is present in the trick, the highest card wins, which is either going to be a wolf or a brick card, right? Because it either blows it down or the brick outlasts the wolf. Or if there is no wolf present, the lowest card wins the trick. Because you got away with being the laziest pig, wolf didn't show up, you get away with it. That's the sort of hook there. And Hen House is, a sort of trick-taking adjacent thing of like climbing and shedding. So you're not playing one card at a time, you're playing groups of cards. The weird sort of hook in that one has to do with the way that you can combine cards. There's 4 suits of white chickens, white eggs, brown chickens, and brown eggs, and the brown chickens can't combine with white eggs, and white chickens can't combine with brown eggs. And so when you look at your hand, you've got this sort of, I don't know, 2-dimensional way that things can combine, basically. And then there's also some animal cards that can sort of, like a snake eats an egg, so you could take one of those cards and then play over someone else, that sort of thing. As far as like why I like them so much, I will say like one of my first design that I brought to a game design meetup was a trick taker, and I've just played them kind of for as long as I can remember. Grew up playing spades, played a ton of euchre in college, I played hearts for years on the computer, not knowing what I was doing, but then eventually found out what I was doing and really enjoy hearts as well. So, and then this sort of trick-taking rabbit hole, and now having played over 100 or so, and like Danielle was saying, this came from like doing more research into trick-taking games and modern designs, and ending up in like the Trick-Taking Guild on Board Game Geek.
Yeah.
And that led me to this Portland Game Collective Discord server, which is just has grown from a couple hundred people passionate about these like weird trick-taking games to it's almost 2,000 people in there now that are the same passionate weirdos about strange Japanese trick-taking games, I guess. But there's just more of us now. There's dozens of us growing.
It's so funny.
I just really like trick-taking games in general. I think you get a lot out of them in a short time. You get like a lot of the same kind of decision space that you might from other bigger on the table board games. And in particular, I like trick-taking games that kind of have like a front-loaded decision of like a bid or something like that. Looking at your hand, and I love like when you can sort of like visualize how that hand is going to go. And I mean, it's fun when you're right, and it's like a total ride when you're wrong and you need to like pivot immediately. And so I think that combination of like sort of strategic thinking and like tactical play just really hits for me.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because my first game ever signed started as a trick-taking like variant. Like it used trick-taking as piece of the mechanic for Innkeeper. Yeah.
I remember it.
And then I developed that out of it.
You were like, oh, Steven likes this. I cannot have this in the game.
No, Steven has great taste. I love like all the games we play together when we're in person.
Rad. So for both of you, what games do you think you would point to as being the most influential to you as a designer? Like, what games have you taken the most out of as like, oh, I have learned a lot from this game? Or you've hated a game so much that it has sparked you to be a designer?
Design.
Do you have anything come to mind for you, Danielle? I've got a couple if you want
to. You can go first.
I'll go. I mean, for card games, the ones that come to mind are like kind of just classic Spades. I think is There's a whole lot of trick takers that come out, and sometimes I'm like, is this better than Spades? Whether I'm designing it or not, like they're just so good. There's one called Nikosu Dice, which is unfortunately kind of hard to obtain, but a very fun one that uses both cards and dice. And then the game Haggis from Sean Ross is like an amazing climbing game. It's like particularly tense and like interesting at 2 players, but it's also like a great 4-player team version in like the latest printings.
Yeah.
And then for other sort of board games, I would point to Brass as something that just kind of like blew my mind getting into the hobby, the way that everything's just kind of interconnected there. And then Modern Art is another one, like the Kinetia game, where it's just like, it's so weird and player driven, right? It's kind of a fragile game, but like when it hits, it's awesome. So.
Totally. Danielle?
So it's interesting because how I think of it is more like I get inspired by like components and products and just like interesting nuances to the designs. Like, I know we mentioned kind of like John DeClaire, like I've always liked that he will take like a mechanic and do something different with it, or a component and do something different with it. Like Rolling Heights, you're like rolling these meeples around, and how they kind of fall is how you get to use them. And so I always find that interesting. Or R2I games, like Road to Infamy games, they're based in Chicago, and like I think of them as part of like being in my class, and it's so great. Like I see Fromage is like behind Steven right now. That's like an interesting, like here's this lazy system that rotates, and it's like action selection, like mini games. Or they did Canvas, where it's like here's these like, which is on my wall right there, and stuff like the clear sleeves, and they're overlapping. And so just like those components to me were so interesting. Or like I still say my favorite game is Wingspan. And the reason I say that is because, like, to me, the mix between, like, the design is really clean. It's good. It, like, it fuses the mechanics really well with, like, how the birds, and, like, I had Elizabeth on my podcast, and she talked about, like, all the stuff that she did to make these
Yeah.
games, but also like you pair that with amazing artwork and like really intuitive graphic design and this like dice tower that was one of the first dice towers that people
Yeah.
started to use. Really nice components. And just like they check so many different boxes for me as like both a designer but also a visual person. And since like in my day job I am the person who's like making those decisions, like deciding what components, working with artists, working with graphic designers to figure out how to make these games great and like make them so we can sell them and stuff. So it's like it checks a lot of boxes in my brain. Plus it was like this game that brought in like nature themes and like other themes outside of just like trains and space and all that stuff. So like it brought in a new audience of gamers, brought in a lot more women, and just like Elizabeth inspired so many different people. And so it's like fun to see how a game can really change the community as well, and like the designers inside of it, and just like help boost marginalized individuals.
Yeah.
Like I get more inspired from like things like that than this like game I played is really cool. Like I tend to forget the games I played during the week because I do play a lot of games. Like I play a ton of published games. I play test the shit out of my games. Like I don't know. I get more like impressed by like certain decisions or certain people and how they design. Like Phil Walker Harding, he is so good at streamlining and just like really cutting until like this is a basic approachable game. Like I love how his brain works. Like I hope my brain works somewhat like him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this is why we co-design. Or sorry,
No, you go.
I think it's why we co-design so well, Danielle. Like we just we like each other's vibes, but we do like have very different approaches.
Very different
Yeah,
approaches.
when the
Very
ideas work
different.
together, I mean, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that it's always it is always important to have people with different skill sets around you.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I think that's especially when you're doing something as nuanced and like there's so many levels that kind of go into board game design where there are so many levers you can pull to fix things. Most like as the designer on the back end, there's so many levers that you can maneuver that it's, I think, very helpful to have somebody who is able to see other levers than you. Yeah. And are there any games that you think if a person is getting into game design, these are games you absolutely must play?
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like a lot of them are kind of evergreens for a reason.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say, like, if you're looking for a deck builder, it used to be Dominion was my, like, go-to, but now I play Star Realms all the time because my work. But also, I think it fixed the issue I had with Dominion because, like, Dominion has static decks that you're pulling from. So a player who's played Dominion a lot will wreck a new player versus if you play with, like, a moving river of cards in the market, then it's harder and it like levels the playing field a little more. Like if you played a lot, you're still gonna do really well. But like that's a great deck builder. I mean, Catan's a classic for a reason, even though I actually do home rule one piece of it, and the home rule is actually taken from Catan Starfarer. I think they did it best in that version of Catan.
What is the home rule?
Oh, okay. So in
I'm here for it.
Yeah. So in Starfarer, it actually is until you hit a certain amount of points. If your number is not rolled, you just take a card from a random deck that you built by taking a few cards from each of the ingredients, shuffling it together, and then you just take from the top. Yeah, super easy.
That's a good idea.
Dude, it makes Catan so much more fun. Like normal Catan, I think that should be the rule, that if your number isn't rolled, because new players don't realize how they should be assigning their little starting cities. Is that what they are?
Yeah,
settlements. Settlements, thank you. It's Settlers of Catan. I blamed the wrong. But yeah, so it's just like they don't know that, or some people are like, I'm not going to trade with it. But when you're always gaining resources, people are way more willing to trade and barter, and that's where like the fun of Catan comes in. So it's just like I use that home rule, and it makes the game so much better. And it's not even like I took it from a different version of Catan, so it's not even like I came up with it. I just applied it from a different version. I think that's another good one. I mean, I'm sure Steven also has suggestions of games to be played, but
yeah, I mean, I think you'd probably, like Danielle was saying, I think is like two sort of answers. The one being that I don't know if there's like a ton of necessary games, except for the recommendation would be to like play games maybe outside your comfort zone and see what they do for you. I mean, especially like Danielle is like a great example.
I play Trick Takers sometimes.
I know. Yeah, but I mean, like finding finding a way into them. And so, if you normally play, just midweight Euros, like try, just even get your head into an abstract game or a party game, or, go try like an 18xx once, like go see what, something like that has to offer you. I mean, I think
a lot of my best ideas came from playing heavy games and taking a piece of it and making it into like an approachable entry level game.
Yeah.
And then my like slightly like nerdier, more obscure answer would be I've played 2 games this year, which I think like people should play. There's The Estates, and then Santiago. They are both kind of just strange auction games with like a pretty tight economy, and like they sound incredibly dry. Like The Estates, you're just like building buildings on like 3 city blocks, and then Santiago is like you're literally like building, I think, a water line, like a drought, or like not a to water crops. But as soon as you start playing, you get like one round in and it feels like nothing is happening, and then all of a sudden like the stakes are raised, and you just get the funniest, weirdest situations. Like people can be like a little bit mean, and like you make desperate plays, and I think some of the funniest stuff happens in both of those games.
Yeah.
I feel
even
like
though they're not particularly silly.
Yeah, it's like for new designers, I would say like looking at evergreens, because there's a reason they reprint and why they're classics, like reviewing that, but then look at mechanics you're interested in. Like if you haven't played a roll and write, play a roll and write game. Like whether or not you're gonna end up liking it, who knows. I went on BGG and taught myself all the different mechanics out of spite from like someone gatekeeping me. And I'm not saying do that, but like looking
You're not
out
saying
there,
to gatekeep?
No, I definitely don't gatekeep. Flashcards on mechanics. Don't be that nerd like I was. But go through there and like see what some of those mechanics are. Because even I look at them sometimes like, what is this exactly? Like, what is this mechanic?
Do you know the difference between area majority and area control? Really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or like, I think it's funny how many rock, paper, scissors mechanics there are. And it's just like, it's fun to see what the tags are and what games pop up on them. It's just like a fun little thing to go through and like see if any of them spark your interest.
Yeah, totally. Is there anything you would like to point the audience to as like either your next project or where they can find you on to find out what's going on with your next project? Before we sign off here, I'll go to Steven first.
I mean, I'm on Instagram at for either Plurpy, Plurpee, or Plurpy Games, which is a little more like board game oriented content and stuff like that. Not a private account or anything. And then also Plurpy on Discord. In particular, you can find me like spending too much of my time in the Portland Game Collective Discord. I would say like if you're interested in trick takers, especially. There's a great community there of people finding them, designing them, and just sharing all kinds of information about them. And then just one other quick one I would point to is there's another Discord server called US Indie Markets. Daniel Newman started this like indie games night market thing at PAX Unplugged. So for the designers out there, if you're at all interested in trying to do any kind of personalized like small print run of your game, 50 copies or something like that, that's a great resource. And these little like game design markets are trying to they're trying to like grow this network and like create a community of having these 20 to 30 little designers releasing very small print runs of games just to kind of get their ideas out there. These are some people that aren't even necessarily interested in pitching or having it have 100,000 copies sold. They just want to like get their idea in the hands of people, and it's really cool, like indie spirit to it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've been very much thinking about having one of my games that has just not found the right one, but I've had for so long go through that process. Yeah.
That's all I have to share though. Yeah.
I mean, you also go to local stuff. Maybe talk about the local gaming
Oh
groups.
yeah, sure. I'm sorry, local. Yeah, sure. There's local stuff. I mean,
you're like just digital.
Yeah, that's. I didn't even. If you're in the Chicago area, right on like Meetup. There is we do a monthly meetup in the Schaumburg area at Lou Malnati's. It's a pizza place, but you can find it on Meetup to see when that is. And then in September, I don't know when this drops, but in September, in just a couple weeks, 12th, 13th, 14th, is Protospiel Chicago. So if you're into design or playtesting, that is a small convention of about 200 people. No published games, right? We're playtesting stuff, giving feedback, bringing designs, and tickets are still available for that.
I was gonna say, celebrate my birthday. It's September 13th, so
soon coming up.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting older, but okay.
Did I miss anything, Danielle?
No, I think you got all your stuff.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I don't have any local playtesting, unfortunately, so you will only find me at so many conventions, though. I work for Wise Wizard Games as their project director, so you can say hi to me. Just be warned, I am very often in meetings, so I might give you a wave more than full attention. But digitally, you can follow me as Token Gamer, like Gaymer, on Instagram and Blue Sky. I also have Game Design Unboxed. It's a podcast, and now it's also an Instagram and a TikTok. And that's where I interview game designers about the games they make. And now I do short form videos where I give design tips and development tips, and also just like unboxing like cool stuff, like what made Finspan different from Wingspan, different from like Wormspan, like these fun little questions that everyone wants to know the answer of, and now it's only in a minute video. So that's like a project I've started, and of course I injured myself while starting it, but
you didn't injure yourself.
Okay, yeah, someone dropped a suitcase on my head. Fun times. Thank you, Flight, from Gen Con. But I got that, and then I have my second podcast, which is Proud to Game, spelled Gayme, because I am a director of Tabletop Gamers. And also, if you are a designer, highly recommend joining Tabletop Game Designer Association. It is a nonprofit to support game designers out there. Honestly, it's worth it, even if it's just for hey, they're going to look at your contract if you get one, because contracts are scary. And the legalese, it makes no sense. And I've looked at many at this point, and I still am like, please look at this. But yeah, so you can track my actions there, or on Facebook, just Danielle Reynolds, or LinkedIn. I post probably the most on Facebook of anywhere else, and my account's like open, so like whoever wants to watch can. I don't really do Discord often, so like don't try to reach me there.
No.
Yeah, but I think that's all of the places you can find me. Oh, and then like I have my website, DMR Creative Group, as well as a website for game design. So do all the things, and I have possibly, I think, 4 to 7 games releasing next year. So watch my social media. You will be seeing a lot from me, either solo or co-design.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you both so much for coming on our podcast. We had an audience question, but it was talk about why you play trick takers or have designed trick takers, and we got that. We nailed it. Thank you for your comment, Gray Fool. But I do want to thank you both for coming on, and I do think people should check out your games as they come out. I'm excited to give 3 Tricky Pigs and Hen House a go once I'm able to get a copy of it. And yeah,
you can still late pledge. Late pledge is still available.
I will link to it in our in the description, because I do see that you can still pledge if you're interested in getting a few other trick taking games into your library. So thank you to our viewers and our audience for being such a great community. Obviously, thank you to Danielle and Steven for coming on to the podcast. I have been Eric with the Cardboard Herald.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
It was
Eric.
great.
It was fun. Yeah.